Every single time you give any government an inch, they're going to take a mile. Every time. And we're seeing it now. With the gauge increase, oh wait, we're going to do vents too. Oh, we're going to increase the gauge even more. This whole thing was jammed down everybody's throat.
We were never asked another way. How can we create sustainability that is good for the resource, but also lets the industry continue to survive? Addendum 27 is short-sighted. It will eliminate a lot of the independent harvesters immediately, and it will absolutely destroy the shoreside infrastructure here in Maine.
I'm Corey Thompson. I'm the buyer for Lobster. We have 3 locations on the Mid-Coast. We have our Tennant's Harbor location, Spruce Head, which is where we are today, and our Stonington location. And those are all company-owned wharfs. Our holding facility here can hold 273,000 pounds of Maine lobster in our tanks, all chilled down to 38 degrees. We have a tagging system where we have full traceability to all of our wharfs that we buy from, right down to the individual fishermen. We have about 45 employees here at this location during the height of the summer.
My name is Hugh Reynolds. I'm the owner of Greenhead Lobster here in Stonington, Maine. We're a family-owned business that on a daily basis deals with 100 independent harvesters. We also have a live lobster business and a lobster processing business here that employs over 150 people. We are major players in the global lobster market, which the supply chain consists of about 100 million pounds from the United States and 125 million pounds from Canada. We ship our products frozen and live worldwide.
There's a lot of moving parts to this business. The trucking and all the employees that do all the tanking before it ever goes to somebody that puts it in a box or goes to the end user. We focus a lot on lobster quality here. We're committed to our harvesters just as much as they're committed to us. And if I can't buy those lobsters or move that product into the marketplace or their final destination, I haven't done my job.
The marketplace ramifications of Addendum 27, initially just only the first 1/16 of an inch, has destructive implications. In the global marketplace between Canada and America, this size lobster, which is about a 1 1/8 pound lobster, satisfies a very important part of the market. One in the live lobster business, but also in the 4-ounce tail business that we produce for the grocery stores in the US. This moves a lot of our product in this way. This is a very important part of our marketing network for us to reinvent our sales structure, and everything around this addendum is much too fast.
I don't think we've had enough time to get this to our end users, our customer base, and saying, hey, you're no longer going to be able to get Maine tails this size, or you're no longer going to be able to get chicks. I mean, it's just driven down our throat. You have a situation where a lot of processing plants get a 3 to 4 ounce tail out of the state of Maine run. For that size of lobster and the tail that it produces, you're going to have these markets that people have spent a lot of time and money producing and targeting, and it's just going to go away. Canada will have the upper hand in terms of that specific tail market.
In the state of Maine and the US, they made a huge push 10 years ago for us to invest in our own processing and shoreside facilities here in the United States. Addendum 27 goes directly against what the regulators wanted. We will not be able to survive the measure increase in this regulatory inconsistency with Canada, and therefore the market inconsistency with Canada. With Addendum 27, we cannot run our factory for more than 5 months a year. Therefore, it will be almost impossible to be open. We will not survive.
The gauge increase, it's going to have a huge ripple effect. The state of Maine, depending on the time of the year, I think certain times of the year you could see as much as a 30% decrease in landings. That's a lot, it's a big number. Like, the tank holds 273,000 pounds. If that's reduced by, 15% or even 25 or 30%, won't need as many trucks. You don't need as many employees. That's gonna have a huge impact.
Last week, I went down to Washington, D.C. to testify on Addendum 27.
I'm gonna call a lobster board meeting to order. I am aware that there are members of the lobster industry who are going to want to address the lobster board. We have added 30 minutes to the agenda here this morning. So the first online is Christian Porter from the Maine Lobstermen's Association.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I know there are other people here to talk about Addendum 27. I fish in an area down East Maine called the Gray Zone. With the gauge increase, I will be throwing lobsters overboard. Not to say I'll catch you next year when you're bigger. It will be going directly to Canada. I think we need time to get this figured out with the trade, let the science play out for a little bit longer and see if we really are in a downturn.
Next up is Dustin Delano, and then Frank Thompson.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning. My name is Dustin Delano, and I'm a fourth-generation lobster fisherman from Friendship, Maine. I'm here to represent myself as a harvester of over 20 years and to also represent the New England Fishermen's Stewardship Association. Thank you for providing extra time for folks to make their comments today. I'm going to allow the inner harvester in me to speak out and be very blunt on this issue. Many of you may think this ask for a one-year delay in implementation of Addendum 27's gauge increase is just another charade because fishermen just plain and simply do not want to increase their gauges. I'm here to tell you today that part of what I just said is completely true. A majority of fishermen I know do not want an increase in the minimum size of their gauge. However, despite the unusual ask in the current circumstances, we desperately need time to address the issues surrounding Canada. Our fishermen commingle with Canadians, just as Kristen spoke about in the Gray Zone. Beyond that, dealers and the lobster chain move in lockstep with Canadian counterparts. Lobster dealers have overcome many hurdles in the last few years, from things such as retaliatory tariffs on lobster to the COVID-19 pandemic. Dealers and fishery managers did a great job to keep everyone fishing in those instances. What we're asking here is to allow for a one-year delay to help us avoid another catastrophic problem where dealers, harvesters, and even fishery managers are forced to improvise on a whim, taking risks and playing more games of trial and error in the final hour.
Thank you, Commissioner. I don't want to waste your time. I agree with Dustin and Christian about all this. I'm in agreement with them, and I'm here for the MLU.
Thank you, Frank. I appreciate that. We'll take Hugh and then Hank Soul.
The Colby College study in Addendum 27 has the economic impact at $84 million. That's combined with a 10% reduction in the catch. That's the DMR science saying 10% down, and the overall economic impact of $840 million. In our town alone, it's $8 million. In the times of raging inflation and what the fishermen are battling, I just don't think they're ready. This is one of the things we're just asking for time to brace for impact.
And when you consider the potential impacts in tandem could have very serious implications on not just, we believe, the lobstermen, but also the shoreside processes.
Thank you very much for having me this morning, everybody. I very much appreciate it. My name is Kurt Brown. I am a lobsterman out of Cape Elizabeth, Maine, and a marine biologist at Ready Seafood based in Portland. And SACO collaborate with the Department of Marine Resources in Maine on a number of research projects. We do that because we care about the future of this industry, and I think all of us in this room are here for that same reason. In the past, we have seen ups and downs in both landings and surveys for lobster in Maine. This current conversation is driven mostly by downturn in down East Maine off of all-time highs in the number of juvenile lobsters that we've been seeing. We saw a similar decline in the same area from 2013 to 2015, and that was followed by those same all-time highs. This past year, we saw a bump in settlement for the first time in a while, which was very good to see in both in a collaborative research project that Ready Seafood works on with the University of Maine, looking at settlement in deeper water, and also in the suction sampling survey that DMR does. Maybe it would be a good time to hit the pause button on a gauge increase and see if we can get some coordination across states and across countries, especially with Canada, on this issue, because the implications are drastic and severe, as you've heard.
Andrea Tomlinson from the New England Young Fishermen's Alliance. There's a couple of things that New England Young Fishermen's Alliance would like to see, and that is a more comprehensive data set with more industry collaborative research involvement. This is not an easy time to be in the arena of trying to encourage young people to get into this industry. We hear a lot of young people saying they don't want to get into the industry due to several factors: access, cost, They feel that the industry is highly overregulated in both brown fish and lobster, and they also feel as though they don't have a voice.
Our trip to Arlington to testify in front of Atlantic States Marine Fisheries Commission was an eye-opening occurrence with Dustin from New England Fishermen Stewardship. He's a great partner. He understands the fishery. He has family in the fishery. He understands businesses like mine, and that is really important to get that to the regulators and our government to have more collaboration and understanding between industry and regulation.
My ask for the state of Maine is just take a pause, step back, look at the situation, how devastating it can be to the state, our individual businesses, the harvesters. But not just that, there's science out there that totally contradicts the state of Maine's findings. And it's not being looked at or taken seriously. And I think all of it should be looked at.
Industry has its own questions on the methodology of the science, particularly with some of the indices that they are using. The science needs to be questioned a little and looked at. Is lobster, for example, settling in deeper waters? And we just ask the government to back off for a few. Let us look at the science. Let us look at other ways of sustainability, keep us from massive disruption. I just appreciate the work that Dustin's doing and New England Fisheries Stewardship are doing. Is very important to have industry representatives, people that are knowledgeable about the fishery, the supply chain, and its impact and the importance of this industry on families here in coastal Maine.
The North Atlantic lobster fishery must work in lockstep with Canada to ensure the stability of markets and trade. We ask you today to please consider this ask from the many New England stakeholders providing comment.